We have one last absolutely fantastic treat for you now. If you're Swiss, you'll probably know this man already. He's one of Switzerland's greatest performers, and you may have noticed that we haven't covered all the Swiss languages tonight. I apologize, we haven't covered Italian, and we haven't covered Rhéto-Romanche, which is the fourth official Swiss language, but I promise you we will do that in the future. But what we have got instead is one of Switzerland's most exciting storytellers and performers, and he's going to be reading from his best-selling debut novel. He's written a lot, but this was his first novel. It's an absolute cult novel in Switzerland. It was written in the Swiss-German dialect from Bern. It was about a Glaswegian. It was translated into the Glaswegian dialect. My head's already bursting. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to PEDRO LENZ. It's so great to have you here, and I know you know all this. Have you met Deborah? You've met Deborah. You know this gentleman next to you. I know that you'll know all the Swiss writers, but this is such a great story. And I heard you performing with your translator, Donald McLaughlin, quite a few years ago now in Solothurn. And it was so great. And even though I don't understand a single thing of Swiss German or the Bernese dialect, it was just so wonderful to listen to that language. Now, tell us how this book came to, because you write in what they call the vernacular. And you perform in the vernacular. You're part of a group, I think, of performers as well. Tell us about that. Who are you, PEDRO LENZ?
Yeah, the first thing, maybe I love I love to write in Swiss dialect in my own language, because it's the language I use all the time. And in Switzerland, Peter said already that people think that Switzerland is or something very special, or very, very on a good level, or something miserable, but no one thinks that it's something normal. And the same thing is with the Swiss dialect. There are people who think this is a language from God, and translatable, because when this book was translated, most of Swiss colleagues told me, but you can't translate Swiss German. I said, why? But they have the idea that it's a very special language, and then are others who think that it's not a language.
And what do you do? Do you sort of beat them up then?
No, I just say...
so I'm taller than you. You know,
there was even a Swiss university professor writing in an article that you can't do literature with this language because the language is too poor. It's has not all the words you need to make literature. Then I asked this professor later on a talk if there's if he knows a subject where two Swiss men speaking in their own Swiss German have to change the language to go on in the conversation. And it's impossible to think about that in a language you have to change a language to say what you have to say.
But the interesting thing is, what you do as well, is that you don't write about big cities, you write about small towns, villages. And again, this is a very Swiss thing, isn't it, too? I mean, it's, there's so...
I'm not sure, because, Rosie, London for me is, my size of a city is about 15,000 people. That's where I was.
It's a big city, right?
Yeah, in Switzerland. I grew up in Langenthal. It's about 15,000 people. Then now I'm living in Olten. It's about the same size. And then people say to me, "But how can you go to London? You are always talking about these small cities." And I say, London is maybe 100 times Langenthal, or Glasgow, where I used to be, is about 10 times or 20 times Langenthal. I think that's just my size. And if I had to stay in London for 2 years, for example, I would build my Langenthal in an area with 50,000 people.
Do you think we all build our own Langenthals, though?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Because I was in New York, and then if you're in Manhattan and you ask someone about an address or how to take the subway to go to Coney Island, nobody can tell you because they all stay in their own area.
That's so true. So true.
Only the tourists are traveling all the time.
Now, you're going to perform for us, Impossible. You're going to read from this wonderful. Just tell us a little bit about the story, because it's an amazing story of how you actually came to write this as well. Because you lived in Glasgow for 6 months, was it?
Exactly.
You
yes.
lived in Glasgow 6 months, and you researched Glasgow in order to write this book in the Swiss dialect. Right. Why?
No, I was. When I arrived in Glasgow, their hospitality was fantastic, and Scottish people are have a great hospitality. Maybe all British, I don't know, but in Scotland I really felt it. And then I knew a lot of Scottish writers, and several of them, like for example Tom Leonard or James Kelman, they write an English with dialectal or
they do, yes.
dialectal.
James Kelman's very
for example, the dialogues are written in a Scottish way. So they asked me, why don't you write in your dialect? And I said, there's no tradition, and there's no orthography, and I don't know, maybe there's not enough people who can read it. And they said, how many people are you? And I said, maybe Swiss German people, we are maybe 4 or 5 million. And then they
that's
said,
a population of what, 8 million?
Yeah, the whole country. And then they said, 4 million or 5 million, that's our Scottish population, that's the population of Finland, there are so many countries who are smaller, or communities who are smaller, so 5 million, it's enough to write. So they encouraged me to do it.
And then this became a phenomenon, this book.
Yeah,
Why
the important
do you think
thing
it
is,
did?
I think the important thing for me is just not the language. I'm not a fan of Swiss language or something. It's just I want to make people speak in the language I hear every single day. I'm surrounded with. Maybe if I would stay 30 years here, I would try to write in English. I would have to improve, but
you are a linguist, because you speak Spanish. You studied Spanish, didn't you? And Italian and French and German and English.
But not English.
No, it's very, very good. We're all ashamed in this country of how badly we speak languages. But so, you're a linguist, and you know about the musicality of language and so on too, and that's very evident when I hear you read too. So I think that must be the trick, because this was made into a film as well, and then it was translated back into German,
exactly,
and French, and then
in about 10 languages.
Amazing. Now we're going to have a special little performance of this, and we're not going to translate the whole thing. It's going to be read in Swiss German. But first of all, you're going to have a little bit of a taster of I was going to say the English, but it's not the English. It's the Glaswegian dialect. And there's only one person I know who has. My husband Max has a genetic link with Glasgow. His father was from Glasgow, so that's all I can do. I can only offer you, but Max is a fantastic broadcaster, so...
We'd never begin a performance with...
We just need to give the title of the book. So
yes.
It's...
In Glaswegian, it's no much of a talker.
And then it's Der Goli bin ich in Swiss.
As I say, one should never begin with an apology, but as Rosie said, ma fille whisper Glasgow. But actually imitating his Glaswegian accent in the family home was, as they used to say in the Gorbals before it was gentrified, strengstens verboten, Jimmy. notice the authentic Glaswegian glottal stop. That's probably the last authentic Glaswegian sound you'll hear this evening. Anyhow, the loop. It all started long before that. I could just as well make up, but it all started that one evening. A few days after they let me into the choke. 10 in the evening, it was 1:30 maybe. You see the wind would have cut right through you. Fucking freezing it was. Fog Valley. In November and all, my hat was like a soaking wet flare cloth. It was that heavy. So I takes myself in the cobblers, fancied a wee coffee. I did. With a good shot of schnapps in it. You dosh the gee when you leave the lick. I'd already blown. Already. Not back here to tell you who to go on. So there I was. Fat old dosh. Desperate for a coffee. But with schnapps in it. For a bit of company, you know. A cunt or two to talk to. I'm telling you, my pockets were empty. Apart from a few fags, a few coins.
Things were a bit tight, lad. Tighter than tight, to be honest. Waiting on money, some cunt owed me. I was. Try saying that when you're fresh out of a nick. I'm owed a whack of money. Just don't have it on. Impress his neck on that.
Thank you to Max Easterman, and now PEDRO LENZ.
Let me just read the same page. I have to explain something. When I first had a presentation of the Scottish version in Glasgow, and Donald, the translator, read a chapter of the book. Afterwards, people in Glasgow asked me, they said to me, "Hey, big boy," they asked me, "Why do you write about our people?" And I said, no, these characters are from my hometown. No, they are not. They're from here. And then I knew that the translation was nice. Angefangen hat es eigentlich viel früher, aber ich könnte jetzt auch gerade so gut behaupten, es hat am einen Abend angefangen, ein paar Tage nachdem, dass ich von Witz bin zurückgekommen. Vielleicht war es etwa 10 Uhr, vielleicht eine halbe Stunde später, spielt keine Rolle. Auf alle Fälle hat es Beisen gehabt, wie Zoll, Schummertal, November und ich, ein Herz so schwer wie einen alten, nassen Bodenlumpen. Gehe ich also ins Maison fertig, nehme das Abschiedsgeld vor der Kiste, habe ich schon verdoppelt, ohne genau zu wissen, wie ich Kohle, aber unbedingt das Kaffee fertig und ein bisschen Gesellschaft und ein bisschen Stimme braucht dann. Ich sage es ja, nichts im Sack als ein paar Zigaretten und ein bisschen etwas in Münzen, Engpass eben, aber ziemlich böse. Ich habe darum auf etwas gewartet, das nicht so gut hatte. Nur sag das mal jemandem, wenn du gerade aus dem Loch bist gekommen. Sag mal jemandem, du hast zwar ziemlich viel Geld zu gut, seist aber gerade nicht besonders flüssig. Das interessiert jetzt gar niemand. Also, wie gesagt, ich ins Maison das Kaffee fertig bestellt, fragt mich die Regula, ob ich es zahlen könnte. Keine schlechte Frage, wenn man überlegt. Bist so gut, du nicht leiden, Regi. Weisst du was, jetzt bringst du es auf einmal, mache ich zu einer, nachher schauen wir dann. Bist ein ewiger Stürmi, sagt sie, und bringt mir's. Ich habe es nicht getippt, macht sie näher und schaut mich so an. Weiss auch nicht wie anders als sonst, mit ein bisschen mehr Sehnsucht in den Augen oder etwas. Keine Ahnung, wie es anderen geht. Aber mir während das gerade bis zu Innerste, wenn mir eine Frau wie die Regi so anschaut. Merci, Regi, bist eine Liebe, zahle dir es dann mit Betten zurück. Ich soll doch bitte aufhören mit meinen ewigen Sprüchen und soll mich vor allem nicht daran gewöhnen, sagt sie. Weil wenn der Pest erfahre, dass sie das fertig nicht tippet hat, dann gäbe es extreme Lampen. Ich wüsste ja selber, wie der Pest manchmal tun könnte. Das ist eine gute Idee, Golo. Ich kann mir rühmen, die schaut zu und es sagt sich einfach, das tippen jetzt mal nicht. Und das merkt ihr wahrscheinlich kennen. Weil der Pest, der Wirt, der merkt sowieso zuletzt und der Goli, jetzt ist das Kaffee fertig und Schluss. Mir war ja das schon lange bewusst, dass der Regulas ein grosses Herz hat. Aber an diesem Abend hat sie mir aus dem Schafen gefallen.
Thank you so much to PEDRO LENZ, thank you to Peter Stamm, thank you to Deborah Levy, and thank you to Nicolas Verdun, Monique Schwitter, Charles Bois, and where are we? Alain is here at the front, Alain de Botton. Thank you so much for